Donald Trump, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, when I was coming down here yesterday, I was talking to people and saying I was going down to meet you, and to my surprise, two of them said, "Who's Donald Trump?" So I said, "Look, he's worth billions. He's a property tycoon. You know that Trump Towers beside Tiffany's in Fifth Avenue, other skyscrapers. He does The Apprentice on American TVs. He has the franchise for Miss World and Miss Universe. He's written several books about success. He's had 3 beautiful wives. He's passionate about golf courses. There's nothing understated about him, and people make lots of jokes about his hair. Did I leave anything out?
No, you left nothing out at all, Sean.
So, you're here. Are you here because, or have you arrived in Ireland because you think the Irish economy is on the uplift, or is it because you've got a great eye for a bargain and you picked up the Doonbeg Golf Resort for a song?
Well, maybe a little bit of both, Sean. I have, and as we were discussing just before, I think that Ireland is really ready for a big comeback. I know they went through hell in a handbasket, and they went through very tough times, almost more than most. And they are tremendous people. It's a tremendous country. And I can tell you, I have a lot of friends in New York at the highest levels of finance, and they love Ireland, and they have really their eye on Ireland. So I think Ireland is set for a big comeback. And frankly, if I didn't feel that, I have a very big investment in Doonbeg. The big investment wasn't the price of buying it. It was the price of making it phenomenal. And I think we can make this one of the great resorts of the world. We're changing the name to Trump International Golf Links and Hotel because we have one of the best hotels in Europe, as you see. We're in it right now. And I think that I know for a fact, if I didn't have confidence in Ireland, I would never have made this big investment.
How big a bargain have you got with this golf resort?
Well, I was surprised. I mean, I've wanted to buy it for 4 or 5 years, but I was heard you just couldn't. It would never be for sale. And I shouldn't tell this story, but I will tell it to you. I sent a whole group of architects over here to study the clubhouse because I think it's one of the great golf hotels, pure hotels, there is anywhere in Europe. And I sent my architectural team from Aberdeen. We have a great relationship in Aberdeen. We had recently a poll, 93% of the people in Aberdeen, they love what Trump has done over there. And at some point, I'm going to build this clubhouse. And I wanted to study this before I built it. And this was 3 years ago. And I sent, when they called me, they said, "You're not going to believe this place." And I had seen it and heard about it. And I said, "I wonder if it's for sale." And we tried to buy it 3-4 years ago, and they thought I was kidding. So it turned out that I was able to buy it. And I'm going to spend a lot of money on making it great.
You paid $15 million or euro for it?
Euro.
Euro. And what do you think it cost to put here what's already on site?
Maybe 300 million.
That's
it could be 300.
That's a fantastic bargain.
Well, it was a bargain. Again, I can't really believe it. Now, I did a very quick closing. It took place in a very short period of time. But they have a tremendous amount of money invested in this place, and you could never replicate it. I mean, if you were to say, let's build it all over again, and I don't care if the market was phenomenal, you could never replicate it. So I was really happy that I was able to buy it.
How will it look in 2 years' time? Because you say you're going to put, 45 million into it?
Yeah, at least, probably much more than that. Well, one of the things we're doing is I've just retained the services of the great Martin Hawtrey, Dr. Hawtrey. And Dr. Martin Hawtrey, as you know, is the architect for the Royal and Ancient, which is a great group of people that are absolutely amazing, and what they do for golf is so important. And they are, because I also own Turnberry, and they're very important to golf, and Peter Dawson is a great leader of the Royal and Ancient. And I called them and I said, who would be the greatest architect? This was in Aberdeen. They said Martin Hawtrey. Well, he did a course for me in Scotland, Sean, that is considered one of the great courses of the world and doing amazingly well. So when I bought this, the first person I thought of was Martin Hawtrey.
So you're going to reshape it? Is that the plan?
We're going to reshape it. We're going to do various things, some very significant. And we think we have a chance to make this one of the great golf courses of the world.
You were saying, I think yesterday to other media that you felt the best use had not been made of the land. So
That's right.
What's going to happen then, or what do you hope will happen? Presumably you get the clearance from the environmental experts and the people responsible for protecting it.
Right. Well, we're going for permits and permitting because, they had a snail problem. This is a world-known problem now because all over the world they talked about the fact that Doonbeg was known for not having been able to use the best land for the golf, which is very bad for tourism if you think about it. I mean, Doonbeg can be one of the greatest golf courses anywhere in the world, but you have to be able to use the land appropriately. So The snail that they talked about, they thought was
Angustia vertigo. It's probably now the Trump Angustia vertigo.
Well, they'll rename the snail, I'm sure. But what happens is they thought it was just on this site. Well, now it's actually all up and down the coast. It's all over the world. This is a snail that's all over the world. So it's not the same level of importance as what it was. But I'm meeting actually today with environmentalists. We've been meeting for months with them, and we're getting along tremendously well. They want to see us build one of the great courses of the world, and that's what we're looking for.
But I thought you had one, because that's why you bought it. So there can't be a huge amount you want to do with it.
Well, we are redoing numerous areas.
And of course, you lost some of the land to the recent storms last winter, and there have been, you've got to rebuild that. But again, you got a little bit ahead of yourselves by starting to move rocks in, and you were told to stop. So that would suggest you're maybe, have your people played a little fast and loose with the authorities so far?
No, not fast and loose. What we're doing is we're trying to save land, and everybody wants that to happen. But we actually as you know, we got permitted, and we're doing certain things. We're asking for permits for certain other things. And look, in the end, it would be a lot less expensive if I didn't do all this stuff. But in the end, it's the right thing to do.
You're putting in a ballroom and you're putting in a spa and so forth. But the question I have for you now is, how can we be sure this is going to happen? There will be these extra hundreds of jobs. Because one of the things I think you've talked about in the past is this idea of truthful hyperbole. So maybe you're just hyping it a little bit, are you?
Well, I like to sell, and I tell you what, when it comes to this place, I don't think you can sell enough, because I've never seen a piece of land. I mean, this piece of land is as good as there is anywhere in the world that I've seen, and that's why one of the reasons I bought it. I mean, I bought because Ireland is on the upswing, but I bought a masterpiece. I bought a masterpiece of land. You cannot replicate land like this. When you have close to 500 acres that's on the Atlantic Ocean, with the waves crashing against the shore, and almost every hole you see the ocean. That's why I bought it.
But talking, though, about hyperbole, be it truthful or otherwise, you made big promises in Scotland when you bought the big estate, a much bigger one, I think, up near Aberdeen. I think you promised, was it something like 6,000 jobs, 2 golf courses, a big hotel, and an investment bordering, I think, on £1 billion sterling.
Right.
Now, what's happened so far, 8 years on, falls well short of that. Maybe a spend of, 25 million?
Yeah, but John,
one
it's
golf
their
course
fault.
and no hotel.
Correct. It's their fault, and they understand that. And they're actually becoming very apologetic. I built a course that's far greater than what I said I was going to do. And you know that many people are saying it's the greatest golf course ever built, and that's not hyperbole. I mean, we've had tremendous reviews. It just got rated number 4 in Great Britain, and they said the only reason it's 4 is because it's new. You know, when a course is like 2 years old, it's hard to get the ratings when you're comparing it to courses that are hundreds of years old. We built one of the greatest golf courses ever built. We're doing phenomenal business. And then the government comes up, and they told me this would not happen, and they lied to me. But the government came out and they said, we're going to build this massive wind turbines all over the place in the bay. Well, that's my views. And wind turbines are not good, and they're certainly very bad for birds, but they're also very bad for tourism. And I said, look, that was not what you told me. They told me they would not do that. So I said to them, look, if you're going to build these things, that's fine, but I'm not going to build until you stop.
And this 93% approval rating that you refer to, that's been the subject of some controversy. I saw a BBC documentary by Emily Maitlis made a couple of years ago, and she said your people were not able to give her a copy of that survey or give her a link to it. Is this a figment of your, I won't say imagination, but what's it based on?
Sean, it was done by one of the newspapers. They did a survey a while ago, and they had a 93% approval rating.
Do you remember the name of the newspaper?
And by the way, no, but I can get it for you. I can get you the information. I had never heard it was questioned. But I can tell you this, that last week, they did a major story, again, in one of the newspapers, talking about the Trump effect on Aberdeen. Aberdeen is through the roof. Aberdeen is so successful. Unemployment is almost there's like zero. And Aberdeen is doing really well, and a lot of people are attributing that to Trump.
Well, there is a big oil industry dimension to Aberdeen's prosperity as well. Now, what are you going to do for this part of Ireland in terms of jobs? Do you want to, or can you put a number of the jobs that will result from your investment here?
Well, all I can say is this. This was a resort that was in big trouble, as you very well know, and that's why I bought it for a price that I paid. We will make this resort very vibrant. We will make this resort very good. That's why I want to do the golf course is a very good course, but it can be a great course, and it means I'm going to have to spend a lot of money. I could leave the course the way it is. You're shooting over holes, which is inappropriate. You're walking through fairways, as you understand, which is inappropriate. You know, there are things that are just not not good. So I could leave it the way it is, save a lot of money, not have to go through a whole big thing with environmentalists and many other people, and I will do just fine. I could also spend a tremendous amount of money to bring it to the world, to the highest standards, worldwide highest standards. That will be good for the resort. What I have is I bought a troubled resort. I bought a troubled company. I will make it extremely successful. Now, there will be more jobs than they've ever had before, but most importantly, the people that already have their jobs will keep them because there won't be closure, there won't be problems. The people that had their jobs will keep them.
I think at the height of the season, it's something like approaching 250 people work here full time.
Yeah.
Could you see that number doubling once you're up at full speed?
I could, because a ballroom, and we talk about the ballroom, but one of the reasons I'm here is to cite the ballroom. In fact, I was going to put it in one location, but that would have blocked a lot of the views from the apartments and from the hotel room. So that was not going to be so popular, I would suspect. So we're going to pick a different location. I'm very glad I saw that.
And you're accompanied, of course, by your two sons, Don Jr. and Eric, and your daughter Ivanka. They are central to your business operation. They seem to be the kind of family who have stayed on the rails because their dad was a billionaire, didn't seem to sort of make them feel they didn't have to work for a living. How have you managed that, and how important are they to the running of the whole Trump business?
Well, it's a great question. I get asked that question a lot. My kids have done, and I knock on wood, as I said, because who knows what's around the corner. But so far, they've done a very good job. And they work hard, they're smart, they went to great schools, they were able to get into very good colleges and do very well at the colleges. So they're smart children, but they're good children. They have a great heart. My one son, his biggest thing is charity. Eric, he loves raising money for charity and autism and different things. And I will say this, I tell my kids from the time they were 2 years old, and now I have Barron and I have Tiffany.
He's an 8-year-old, and Tiffany
Tiffany is just starting college. So I tell them, but from the day they could speak, from the day they knew what I was saying, I would say no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. And I would just say it, no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. I remember Ivanka looking at me one time and say, Dad, enough, you're driving me crazy with that statement. I would drum it into their heads. And look, I have friends that are very smart and they produce very smart children, but the children are very, very bad because they drink or they take drugs or, they've got a lot of problems. So I tell, the world is tough, Sean. It's a nasty place and it's a tough place. And it's a lot tougher if you don't know what you're doing. And I've seen these kids come along that are smart kids, but they're on drugs, as an example. Or they drink so much that they don't know what they're doing. It becomes...
Are you a teetotaler yourself?
I've never had a drink, actually. It's
and
one of the few good things I've ever done.
What about your succession planning? Because everybody knows of examples of really good family businesses that have been wrecked by the subsequent generation. Now, the chances are that's not going to happen in your case because of what you've just been speaking about, but you can always have the family row. We know all about it in this country as well. So how are you going to avoid that?
Well, I have so far 3 children that are in the business. They're very good. I have a lot of good executives. Of course, you could say if you go, like I went to the Wharton School of Finance, which is the great school, and, you read stories about succession, and some successions are just a total disaster, where you have the kids that are good and the executives are good, and they end up fighting. But I have 3 good children. I have lots of good executives, and I think that should something happen to me, which eventually it will, I really think it's going to go on and hopefully be bigger and better than ever.
Is there a primus inter pares, first among equals?
I would say that, look, I always, family is family and blood is blood, and you're always going to sort of say, I will tell you this, Ivanka has been a star. She's done some great deals. My other 2 boys have been absolute, they've been great. I hope that when I'm not around, they will continue to be. You never know. I've seen kids do really well with a family, and then the father dies, and all of a sudden they go haywire. So, things like that can happen.
It hasn't all been unalloyed success in your case. There have been setbacks. Trump Airlines, Trump Vodka. I'm drawing on the Time magazine list here. Trump Entertainment Resorts. The fact that you, I think, were nearly bankrupted and some of your businesses have declared for bankruptcy along the way. Now, we don't have time to go into all those details, but the question is this. Against that background, from where do you derive your self-confidence? Because as sure as hell you don't lack for self-esteem.
Well, first of all, I never went bankrupt. Okay, number one, and number two, I have used the laws along, just like Warren Buffett and just like Carl Icahn and Henry Kravis and so many others. I mean, we use the laws of
sure, but not everything you've touched has turned to gold.
No, but you can say that with every
sure.
entrepreneur there ever was. I mean, you take the most successful guy, give me your most successful people in Ireland, and I'll tell you they had nothing but trouble, especially over the last 5 or 6 years. So I never went bankrupt, but I do use the laws. I buy things out of bankruptcy. You know, this is an example, by the way, but I buy things out of bankruptcy. I don't know. I have confidence in myself. I've always done well, and I've had confidence in myself.
I've read suggestions that you used to go to a church where the preacher was a man called Norman Vincent Peale, right, author of The Power of Positive Thinking. Right. Was he a big influence on you?
He was. He was a great guy. He was a great, great preacher, and he was a minister, and he would speak incredibly well about the power of positive thinking. He wrote the famous book, The Power of Positive Thinking. Now, I'm not sure I believe in positive thinking. I believe in you have to guard the downside. I really, to a certain extent, I love the concept of positive thinking, but I always like thinking about what's going to happen at worst so that you can protect yourself against that. So that's another phase of that. But Norman Vincent Peale was great. He was a great guy, and he was my minister for a long period of time.
A big influence on you, clearly. Now,
he was.
The other thing is you have toyed, at least publicly, and maybe this is part of your way of grabbing headlines, of entering politics, perhaps standing for the US presidency. Did you ever give that serious consideration?
I did. I really did. And I was leading the polls, as you know, last time. I was beating everybody. And I thought Mitt Romney would win. And I love doing this, showing whether it's buying Doonbeg or Turnberry. I bought Turnberry recently in Scotland, and it's really a special place. And whether I'm doing things like that, or so many buildings in Manhattan, or so many buildings all over the world. We're building in Asia. I love doing it. So I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to run, but I felt Mitt Romney was going. I was leading in the polls. I felt Mitt Romney would do it. And unfortunately, something happened to his campaign with that final month where amazingly he didn't win.
The Republicans, and I'm assuming that you're still disposed towards the Republicans, they're struggling to find a suitable candidate this time. So, as we say in this country, might you consider letting your name go forward?
Well, let's say it a little differently. Stranger things have happened. We'll see what happens. We have a big election coming up in November, and after that, I will decide, and so will other people, and we'll see what happens. We'll see whether it's Hillary Clinton or somebody else, but in terms of the Democratic side. But stranger things have happened.
You've been quite a voluble critic of Barack Obama down the years, haven't you?
Well, not a critic. He's done a bad job as president. I mean, it's not being a critic. I'm trying to be totally honest. He's been a terrible president.
On what basis are you saying that? Are you saying it on the basis
I look
of
at the
Iraq,
economy,
Afghanistan?
I look at Iraq. Iraq was a disaster. Now, Bush started it, but I've been no fan of Bush either, in all fairness. If you look back, certainly one of his great critics was me. The war in Iraq was a disaster. We can't even call Iraq right now. They wouldn't even take our phone call as a nation. And yet we've spent $2 trillion in Iraq and thousands of lives, and we have absolutely nothing. And I said for a long time, the biggest beneficiary of Iraq is going to be Iran and China. And China's taking the oil, and Iran is producing the oil. So, it's a disgraceful situation. So, no, I'm not a fan of Barack Obama, and I would love to be. I wish he were a great president. I don't care if he's a Democrat or not. I wish he were a great president. Obamacare, by the way, is a disaster. So I have been critical of Obama. There's no question about it.
I suppose one thing you're going to have to get used to if you're going to spend much time in Ireland is our capacity for what might be loosely called begrudgery. In other words, people who achieve things can expect to be heavily criticised. And I'm just looking at two pieces this morning, if I can quote from, first of all, the editorial comment in the Irish Examiner. It says, "It's especially difficult and demeaning to imagine that the Finance Minister, Michael Noonan, had nothing better to do yesterday than stand at the end of a red carpet welcoming Mr. Trump like a supplicant boxwallah." The Irish Times, which gave you the big spread, is managing to have its cake and eat it. It had both ways. They give you a big spread in their magazine last Saturday, but this morning a guy called Manlick Clerkin is writing, "It's a pity it didn't rain when you arrived yesterday. The preposterous welcome conferred upon a man who has done nothing more than help himself to a cut-price property deal was the worst kind of forelock tugging. Trump has bought a landmark golf resort for $15 million, one that was valued at 5 times that amount last summer." How do you respond to comments like that?
Well, speaking about Minister Noonan, I have to be honest with you. Now, I never met him. I thought it was an amazing thing that he was there to greet somebody that's putting tremendous amounts, millions and millions and millions into this country. I thought it was a great thing, not because it's me, but if somebody's investing a lot of money and saving a lot of jobs, because who knows what would have happened here.
But others have already produced thousands of jobs, and they didn't get any minister at the bottom of the plane with it. Maybe it was because...
Well, you don't know that. I mean, you don't know that. I mean, the fact is that I am investing a tremendous amount of money in Ireland. And by the way, we've gotten worldwide publicity. You know, the fact that I came here, look, whether we like it or not, and for some reason, someday you'll explain to me why. I don't even know why. But I get I get a lot of publicity, disproportional. And this is all over the world that I bought Doonbeg. That's a good thing because it shows that somebody's investing in Ireland. That's not a bad thing. And so for the minister to come here and say hello and thank me, I thought that was a very nice thing. And I'm sure he's done it with other people. But I actually thought, I thought the article was very snarky, written by a guy who probably snarks at everybody. But frankly, for the minister to say thank you for saving hundreds of jobs, because I don't know what would have happened with this place if I didn't buy it.
Somebody else would have.
Possibly. And maybe they wouldn't do the job that Trump is going to do.
And I'm just reading on your cap, Trump International Golf Club, and it's very important, the Trump brand. Somebody said to me yesterday that actually people were told to remove their name tags because they didn't have the word Trump.
I don't know about that. That I certainly wouldn't know.
But is that the way you see things? It's really important, the Trump brand.
No, I don't see that at all. No. In fact, I would say we would sell out. Obviously, it's not called Doonbeg anymore, and for good reason. It's called Trump International Golf Links now. And obviously, we will start selling shirts when they come in. But I actually told somebody yesterday, no, sell the merchandise that you have, even if it's Doonbeg, sell the merchandise you have before you replace it. I mean, that would be common sense.
And last thing, you probably get asked this often, do all these jokes people make about your hair, do they bother you?
Oh, they kill me. Well, the people kill me. No, it used to bother me years ago, but it never stopped. And it is my hair, as you've probably noticed, but it is my hair. But I get more comments. I had a story written in a major periodical a couple of weeks ago saying that nobody's doing better than Trump. You know, my company's very strong and very powerful and doing great all over the world. But they had one sentence, but he has the worst hairpiece I've ever seen. I don't wear a hairpiece. I said, it's a shame. I can't even show this story. Did Vanity Fair
not do a big close analysis last year sometime and come to the conclusion?
Oh, Barbara Walters did. She took my hair and analysed it and the whole thing. And it was...
Yeah, but you're one of the few guys I've ever seen, and maybe it's because you own the place, it probably is, managed to leave his cap on in a bar, in a golf club.
Oh, I took it off. Oh, yeah. No, I had it off.
Yeah?
I mean, I take it off all the time.
Right. Okay. Well, look, that's the kind of trivia question, I suppose, that people expect to be asked. Donald Trump, thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
Back with more after this short break.
Today with